Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of SOA Chats. My name is Joe Littell. I'm an assistant director with SOA, and today our focus is social media and outreach. So our team certainly uses social media as a means to reach the student body, as well as other audiences for different programs and activities we have. And we've identified folks from 3 different student organizations who have a lot of content on student organization to share what has worked well for them and offer some tips and guidance for others in the student org community who are seeking that for their social media and outreach. So today I am joined by Rachel Mendelsohn, Sherry Bernard, and Ben Moscow. Starting with Rachel, if you don't mind introducing yourself with your name, pronouns if you prefer, your major at Northwestern, and the organization you represent.
Yeah, I'm Rachel Mendelsohn. I'm a senior. My pronouns are she, her, and I am representing SHAPE.
Welcome, Rachel. Sherry?
Hey, yeah, I'm Sherry. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a 3rd-year neuroscience major, and I'm the co-publicity director for New College Feminists.
Welcome, Sherry. And Ben?
Hey, my name's Ben. I'm a 3rd year studying journalism and political science, and I'm the social media director for the Northwestern Flipside.
Terrific. Thank you all so much for being here today. So to get started, I'd like to know, starting with Sherry, what platforms, what media are you using to get your message out for your student organization, and why?
Yeah, so for the most part, we have a lot of stuff on Instagram. So that's mostly because we're like a feminist group. And so we can kind of post a lot of more like general feminist posts that get people excited about any feminists and like what we have to say. So that way we kind of like get people to like know about our club. But then for events and stuff, we move more towards Facebook so that we can have like scheduled events there that people can like share and like mark themselves as going. And we also have a Twitter that we use a little less, but it's mostly to kind of like retweet things that other people have said that we found were interesting and we want to let people know about them.
Terrific. Ben, same question. What platforms is Flipside using, and why do you use those specific platforms for your needs?
Yeah, so I actually took over the socials right as spring quarter was starting, and so that was as quarantine began to hit. And so I had a lot of time to work on building the Instagram and our Twitter presence. We hadn't really used those platforms a lot in the past at all. And but I knew that I had seen other student organizations utilize them very well. I knew that there's a very large market among Northwestern students for that would be interacting with our content if we put it out there, as opposed to it just being on the website. And I have a feeling that there's just more engagement there than we were seeing on Facebook, which is where we would post a lot of like full articles. But for one-off headlines and just quick, funny stuff, Twitter and Instagram have been great. And so I was able to grow those. And we're pushing 1,000 followers on Instagram and a little over 400 on Twitter right now. So we've been very happy with the growth there.
Well, that's great. And Rachel, same question. Which platforms is SHAPE using, and how did you arrive at using those particular ways to get your message out?
Yeah. So similarly, we mainly use Instagram and Facebook. Instagram's kind of the big one. And the big thing, I also kind of started with this role, like right at the start of the pandemic. And that was interesting because normally our social media in the past has kind of just been used to promote events or applications or things like that. But now I kind of started thinking of it as how can we continue using these platforms to educate students and connect with students in like a new way that we hadn't done before. So we started creating a lot of videos. We did IGTV videos. And then the other platform we use now is TikTok. We just recently started a TikTok, and that's been really fun actually, and it's been going really well. And then I repost those videos as Instagram Reels, and those will get a lot of views. So that's been going really well. So I was kind of thinking about it a lot. How can we kind of reshape our social media to continue educating students and sharing really important information that we talk about or that we present in our presentations, which we're doing virtually, but how can we make that more accessible? So I think Instagram and now TikTok are definitely two of the biggest ones that we use.
That's great. And we are seeing this trend of like cross-posting using multiple methods to get the medium out there, especially as these applications have new features that get added in. Because certainly, Instagram was just a place to post pretty photos. And now it's such a powerful tool for getting information out there. Focusing on Instagram, I'm going to start with Ben on this next question. I'm wondering if you could share any sort of graphic design experience that you or others who do the social media for Flipside have. And if you have any advice for those that manage accounts that just feel like, I don't even know what to put on Instagram and I don't have a background in like graphic design. So can you share a little bit about your personal background with design and any resources that might be helpful for our audience?
Yeah, I'll be straight up. I did not know much at all, and I had a lot to learn. The previous social media director, recommended that I download Photoshop, and so I luckily had time to learn a lot of the things. I think the timing ended up being pretty good because I got to spend a lot of time building that skill. And I'm not going to say I know a ton about graphic design, but I'm able to put this purple. A lot of our Instagram posts are just like this purple background. You put the text of the article headline and throw an image up top as well as our insignia and website name. And yeah, I don't think you really have to reinvent the wheel with what you're doing to create fun and engaging graphics. I haven't really super been tasked with that, but I have not done anything too ridiculous. However, we do have people in the club who are a little more advanced at Photoshop, and so I kind of have a little bit more of a committee, for certain headlines that we think will be brought to life by good Photoshop. So I can call on them if they have any fun ideas.
Gotcha. Sherry, same question. So can you share any of your design background or experience or resources that you use for design needs or tips for folks that just feel like I need to get information out there, but I have no design savvy and don't even know where to find things to help?
Yeah, so I also had no graphic design experience coming into this. I think when I first came into the role last year, I was using Google Drawings or something, which was not working that well. But something that really helps is Canva, which basically does the graphic design for you. It has a bunch of templates that you can use and you can alter it to work for you. I think a fair amount of student clubs have been using that recently, and sometimes because I've been going through the templates, I can recognize other clubs using it. It's hey, that's exciting. So then if you are able to alter it to kind of make it a little bit more of your own, that could help make things more unique. But then also something I've done is just repost what other people, other artists or something have done with their permission, of course. So that way we get kind of new content, but it's not constantly me trying to come up with new informational graphics or something. So it makes it a little easier to just repost what other people have done.
Definitely. And Sherry and Rachel, also, I know you all have a lot of content on Instagram that is definitely design forward, but a lot of text and information and quotes and statistics and data and things like that. Rachel, can you share a little bit about your background with design and any resources for folks that might manage accounts that are trying to get that level of information out?
Yeah, totally. So I actually did have a bit of a graphic design background, mainly kind of just playing around with it. But I also worked a bit in social media marketing for an internship. So I did a lot of social media design for that. So that was definitely really helpful. And like Sherry, Canva is kind of the first thing we use, and it kind of is for everything. And one of the best things about it that I would really recommend for honestly any student organization is to have a single Canva account for the organization. So that way you can share the password with other members or your committee or other people that are working on graphics, and they could just go in and play around with it, create some things. And that's actually been really helpful, especially because it can kind of be a lot and very overwhelming to constantly feel like you have to be creating content. So that's been really helpful where somebody else could go in and they feel inspired to create an infographic or something, and then they could just go ahead and do it. And then all I need to do is kind of just post it. So that's definitely been really helpful. And it's a really easy way to collaborate. Something else is Adobe Spark. So that's in the Adobe Creative Cloud. I haven't used it as much. It's a bit more new, but it's kind of like Canva, but just Adobe. So there's a little bit more flexibility that you can do with that. And it has some really cool animation effects. But so those are the two that I mainly use.
Terrific. Terrific. Thanks so much. I'm going to start with Sherry for the next question. So tell me a little more operationally how social media decisions work on the team. Is it all one individual that just takes it on as a responsibility? Are design concepts and posts more of like a team effort? And if so, who are the folks involved and how does the team interact?
So I have a like co-publicity director who helps me kind of split up some of the things we post on different like sites. So like she runs our Twitter and I run our Instagram. So that kind of helps us like kind of just space out who's doing what, just so that like neither of us gets too stressed. But in terms of like the things we post, for the most part, it's kind of like we just post what we think is exciting, especially like on Twitter if you're like retweeting something. But for things where it's maybe like an event where I've created like a Canva graphic, I'll just like send it in the group chat with like our exec and I'll be like, hey, like what suggestions do you have? What would you change like message wise? Is this good? Is this bad? And then also I think like in the past when we've like released like club statements, I'll like make sure that everyone on like exec is comfortable with what we're saying and then just like put it in Canva, like make a little graphic and be done with it. So it's a lot of like, for the things that are more important, making sure that I have everyone's like consensus on what we're posting and making sure that they're okay with the messaging.
Yeah, absolutely important. You don't want anyone to be totally taken off guard as a member of an org and suddenly see a message go out that they don't feel comfortable with. Rachel, same question to you. And I'd like to add, tell us a little bit about the folks involved in social media content development, but also if there's ever discussions of kind of reflecting back on posts, scheduling when they go out, analysis of audience or like when to post things, if there's ever any of those kind of deeper communications within the group.
Yeah, totally. So I'd say that I'm kind of like the main person for a lot of it. I have a committee. And then also because right now with social media, I'm doing a lot more than I maybe would have been if it was a normal quarter on campus, because it's our main way of communicating with people opposed to in person. So I've definitely gotten a lot of help from a lot of people, members of the executive board. Having that shared Canva account has been really great, where somebody on the executive board went in and created the graphic for the applications. So that was all really helpful. And then there's someone else who I reached out to that was really passionate about TikTok. So she's the one managing the TikTok and creating and editing those videos. So that's been super helpful, having kind of a team of people. And we also have discussions, and we just had in our last general meeting for the organization about what type of content we want to share, and mainly thinking about what kind of education we want to do, thinking of our platform as a way to educate students and what is the education or knowledge that we have or resources that might be most relevant right now, and how can we share that. So that was a really great conversation. And then in terms of like analyzing when to post and things like that, I'm thankful I had a little bit of that background from my job, but you can go into the Instagram insights and it'll actually give you really great insights on when most of your followers are most active during the days of any day during the week. So I usually go by that to kind of look, okay, 2 p.m. is a good time to post, so I'll post then. And that has seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, terrific. And obviously there's no, it doesn't cost more to post at a certain time of day or anything. Right. So why not go in the audiences? Ben, I'd like to ask you about Flipside. Are there other folks involved in the social media development and content? And then I'm also curious if you have an estimate of like how much time gets dedicated to social media as part of your role? How many hours per week?
Yeah, it'd be difficult to approximate because I think a lot of the content ends up being completely dependent on the headlines that we come up with. So that can take, sometimes we'll go through a dry spell, and then there are obviously times where, you know, comedy is not necessarily the appropriate response. That may be, you know, we've had a lot of conversations recently about when our voice should be used, and when we feel it's appropriate to weigh in. And so that has led to us going on, you know, some hiatuses, and kind of waiting until we feel it's appropriate to jump back in. In terms of, you know, statements we're going to make and actual logistical stuff, that definitely is consulted with through most of the executive board. Or if there's a joke that, you know, I may be worried about posting because, you know, it may go too far in any way, I'll try to discuss that with the rest of the board. But other than that, I end up with a lot of creative license. I can kind of, you know, if I think of something that I feel like is going to do well, I can put it out there pretty quickly. And you know, basically our goal is to make as many people laugh as possible. So in that sense, we want to get stuff out that's really funny and stuff that's really timely as well. So in that case, you know, it's almost better that there isn't this huge process of review.
Yeah, that's great. And I know we're also very conscious of timing of when our messaging goes out. The SOA accounts aren't necessarily like looking for laugh reacts on what we put, but even though Facebook allows the auto scheduling of posts, we've rarely been using that, just because we never know what kind of like world event's going to happen or campus event's going to happen. And it's easy to forget that, you know, you have a post that in an ordinary day might feel really important and have an audience, but depending on the context or the environment we're in, might come across as really insensitive. I don't know if folks have used any of the kind of add-ons or build-ons to schedule Instagram posts, but I know most folks using Instagram are just kind of hitting post for stories or posts live. But that kind of segues, you mentioned some of the challenges of kind of navigating when's the right time to post based on the voice that Flipside has. And I want to pose a similar question to Rachel. What are some of like the social media challenges that you and the group feel like you've been facing recently?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge is honestly like social media. There's a lot that goes into it, from the creation side to the posting to engaging, maybe reaching out to other student orgs. That can be a lot to take on by one person. And I definitely felt that, I'd say, in the beginning of the role, especially when we all were sent home and virtual and kind of left to figure it out a little bit, like everyone was. So that was definitely a lot in the beginning, but it definitely got easier as I started working more with the executive board and other members of SHAPE, and were really helpful. And we kind of have a bit more of a routine now, which is really good. But still delegating can be kind of difficult. And I'd say something else that's definitely a bit of a challenge is just like being a communications chair or someone doing that kind of means you do have to be on social media a lot, or a decent amount, which can be fun at times, but also kind of draining. Especially because I'm someone who maybe likes to step back at times. So that's been a little bit difficult. But sometimes I like to just go on the SHAPE social media and kind of avoid my own personal one, just to get a little break from it.
Terrific. Sherry, similar question to you. What are some of the challenges you feel like you've been facing in managing social media for your student org?
Yeah, so I guess one challenge that we had, especially in like the beginning of when we were kind of revamping our Instagram, was that we were like going through and like just kind of like following people who we thought went to Northwestern to kind of like expand our followers. But then in doing that, we kind of opened ourselves up to like accidentally following people who like didn't go to Northwestern, and then like following some like trolls. And like when we like post on Instagram, we'll put hashtags, so like if it ends up on someone's page and they're like, oh, we're going to mess with any feminists, and like that's just something we have to deal with. So I try to kind of like keep it open to like differing opinions, but then like if someone's like obviously just like trying to make people feel bad or like saying like someone's identity is bad, then like I'll delete it because it's not really doing anything. But just like being aware that like you may find people who disagree with what you're saying, and like knowing like how to not take it to heart, and also just like deal with it so that other people who are on your page aren't also reading that and taking it to heart. But more so like generally, I think just like getting in the groove of understanding Instagram, especially in like its algorithm. Like, I don't know, I feel like I hear about the like, algorithm so much, but I never really understood what it meant. So it's kind of just like figuring out, like looking at insights, like figuring out when to post and like how often to post, and like if you're going to post on stories, what do people care about, and like if you're going to promote other clubs things, like how should you do it, and just like kind of just getting in the groove of what works best for your club and what's getting the most interactions.
Terrific. Thanks for that. And as kind of the last of the scheduled questions, I'm wondering if we could end on a positive note, if you could share kind of like a triumph that you feel like you've had for your work with social media, whether it's a post you feel like was really successful, a campaign, a creative strategy, really like on any scale. Anything you'd want to share that you're proud of, that you think would really benefit folks that are tuning in to watch this video, who might have that responsibility in their org. I'll start with Ben for this one.
Yeah, so you're asking about triumphs?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Or successes. Triumph might be a little dramatic, but anything you're proud of, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. So I think something, because we are a publication at the end of the day, so I figured out this like cool tool we could use to get, so now we have the link in our Instagram bio connects certain headlines that we'll post as Instagram posts to the actual article. Is this site called linkedin.bio, and we set up an account. I just did this probably a week ago, and I think that's driven a lot of traffic to our site. And with the way Instagram is, you have to be basically an influencer or have over 10,000 followers in order to share links, which kind of is unfortunate because there simply are not a lot of Northwestern student organizations with that kind of following, if any. So there are definitely certain privileges that are granted to certain accounts on Instagram with outsized followings, and so we tried to combat that with this, and now we're getting more traffic to our site because I was able to set up this tool. So I was pretty proud of that.
That's really great. Sherry, same question.
Yeah, so I think something that was really exciting for me was right when quarantine started in spring quarter. We were going to have an event about like self-care, and it was just going to be like a Zoom meeting where people just talk about what's going on. And so then for like the week leading up to the event, we had on Instagram stories those like questions about like, how are you feeling? And then like the next day it'd be like, what are some self-care ideas you have? And so then like we ended up getting a lot of responses from that. And I think it was just really exciting to like see that amount of like activity going on, and then like seeing people get excited about like what we were like talking about. And then like some people like showed up to the meeting from that, and they were, like it was just a good feeling to know that like not only were we helping like share people's like experiences and like ideas, but also like promoting our event. So it's like a double whammy. Yeah.
That's great. And Rachel, do you have any particular campaigns, posts, strategies you're proud of?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really proud of, honestly, the video content that we've done, because videos do tend to get more attention and more engagement than just regular text posts or maybe simple graphics. So we started doing that a bit early in the pandemic, and we made an IGTV video about supporting survivors of sexual assault or violence. And that did really well. People were really glad that we shared these kind of resources. And that got a bit around over 400 views. And then the other thing is the TikTok. I'm really proud of. It's been really fun for us too, just to kind of like engage with each other and create these videos, even though we're in different places. But then also, so we've created around 5 so far. And then when I posted them on Instagram, they all got over 2,000 views. And then on the TikTok, one of them has almost 4,000 views, which is really cool. And our goal is for at least one video to go viral. So that's our ultimate goal, which I think we can definitely accomplish. So that's been really exciting and really fun for us too, just as an organization. And it's been a really great way to engage with people and students.
That's terrific. Those are all the questions I had for the panel today. But I'm wondering, before we sign off, I want to share, you see the accounts on the screen: NU Feminists, NU Shape, NU Flipside, and SOA NU. For those of you watching, these are great examples of student organization accounts from Northwestern University College Feminists, Sexual Health and Assault, Peer Educators, as well as Flipside, and ours is okay too. So please follow along. They have lots of great content. Join the social media community of orgs at Northwestern. And just to close, I'm wondering if starting with Rachel, if there's just anything else you want to share with someone that might be entering into a social media role for their organization, or just part of a brand new organization and feel like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, totally. I guess like a few things. The first is definitely to have a team. It can be a lot if you're trying to do it all yourself. And then the second main thing is to really kind of think about internally or with the other members of your organization, like what value you have to share, and what knowledge you want to share with people, and what's most important. And I think that's really important in thinking about what kind of content you want to share, topics, videos, pictures, and just really thinking about like what can you offer to students or larger communities in general, and then thinking about how you can bring your organization into that. And I think it's really fun. It's a really fun way to go beyond, you know, just events and stuff like that, like we would normally just be promoting in the past, to like thinking a bit more critically about like, well, what can we continue to educate? What do people want to know about? And how can we help provide that? So that's been really fun. So I think really just thinking about what's the most important things to share and how can you do that in a new and creative way.
That's great. Thank you for that, Rachel. Ben, what do you share with someone who comes to you and says, I'm in charge of the social media and I have no idea what I'm doing for my club at Northwestern? Where do you start?
Yeah. So I think it's important to have something that I was able to do is I had a pretty strong base of people just that I knew, even just like I just have a lot of acquaintances at this school, and I was able to figure it out, like, oh, I know for sure that these people are probably going to enjoy this content, and I was able to just follow a bunch of users, you know, keep trying with that, and you know, maybe it was just like, you know, one of our posts is pretty successful, people are interacting with it like that, and so that's how you're raking in more people. I think it's important to get everybody in the organization to boost the content that you have. That's a huge thing on Twitter, because likes and retweets will get things to show up in people's feeds, and just making sure that, yeah, people in the club are sharing it, and you know that people in these organizations, you know, have friends in other organizations, and that's how you build when it's a student org that is trying to grow on social media. It's just friends of friends and friends. That's key for me.
Absolutely. Sherry, we'll wrap with you. What do you tell someone that has to get the social media off the ground for their organization? What are your tips? What are your resources?
Something I would say is just there's going to be a lot of trial and error at first, and like it's okay if things don't go that well. And like even now, like I've been doing this for over a year, and like there's times where I'll just like post something and it's like 0 likes, and it's like, oh, like it's not like anything that's like, I don't know, like don't take it personally, I guess. And like if something doesn't go well, then like it doesn't go well, but it's not the end of the world, and like you'll do better next time. And like even if you don't, it's okay. Like it's just a social media page at the end of the day, and so obviously like do your best and like try to do what's best for your organization, but then like also just like take a deep breath sometimes and like realize it's okay to not be the best social media chair ever at first.
That's really great advice. I know like content and audience sometimes really feel like a chicken and egg thing. Like you really want to build that audience, but you got to have content out there for that audience. But yeah, definitely dedicating the time, using your network, having a team, and just experimenting, trying different stuff just to practice and get it out there are all really important. So thank you all for that. That's going to wrap this edition of SOA Chats. We will have another SOA Chat event coming up specifically for brand new organizations. Orgs that had proposals this term are currently being reviewed, and announcements will be out shortly. So we will be dedicating some time to meet representatives from these newest orgs as members of the student org community and connect with them on how to get started and resources available to them at Northwestern. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.